Welcome to the Brain Gain Youngstown Leadership Series podcast. Each week, we'll learn from leaders who are driving change and making an impact. Now here's your host, the CEO of the Youngstown Publishing Company, Jeff Leo Herrmann.
So I'm not sure if you've heard, but there's a war for talent brewing in this region, and that's a good thing. So with Ultium hiring up to 1,000 jobs, that's the GM-LG Chem joint venture, as well as a long list of jobs available from Lordstown Motors, there truly is a war for talent brewing in this region. And it's going to be up to the business owners and the organizations to do their best, have the best culture and the best strategy to keep their great team members. And we get insight into that process today on the Brain Gain Youngstown Leadership Podcast. Our special guest is Amber Wallace. She's a Chief Retail and Marketing Officer at Farmers National Bank. They definitely are on top of the war for talent. They have a great high-performance culture, and we get insight into how they manage that high-performance culture and the methods they use, which will surely help them retain their top talent as these new companies and new jobs enter our market. So thanks for joining us today, and please welcome Amber Wallace.
It's time to make a change.
I think we can do the vocal exercises like I did with Greg.
All right, I'm in.
That'd be funny.
I'm all in for some fun.
All in for some, hey, well, that's a great place to start. Here we are with Amber Wallace at the Farmers National Bank.
Yes, welcome.
Boardroom, right? The conference,
Yes.
This is the main boardroom?
Right, looks
Beautiful.
very fancy and official in here,
Very
right?
fancy, but we're going to keep it casual.
Good.
Because we're here to learn about leadership lessons on the Brain Gain Youngstown Leadership Podcast.
Right.
So we're thrilled to have you as our guest today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. And I'm a homegrown, born and raised in Cortland, Ohio. So I think it's a good fit and a good opportunity to tell my story and how I ended up in a leadership role.
Right. Did you imagine when you were, say, 6 years old that you would be doing this today?
I don't know. It's funny when I reflect back, like as a child, I was always like hopeful and I always felt like I was going to do okay or be successful.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
Anything in particular that did you want to be in the industry, an actor?
Oh, that's so funny you said that. Yes, I wanted to be a dancer.
Okay.
I thought I'd be a dancer. But in college, I was just so embedded in and so interested in the business community. It was very clear that was going to be my path.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you have an interest in business even as a child?
No, not really. Not until like later in the college years. I was just so inspired,
Were there people you looked up to from a business standpoint?
Not so much as a child, but like as a young adult, like just graduating from college, I just hit the jackpot as far as like local community leaders serving as mentors for me. Because one of my first jobs out of college, so I was like 23, 24 years old, I had the opportunity to start the first American Cancer Society's Relay for Life in Ohio.
Wow.
And that was in Trumbull County. And that's how long ago that was.
The first one in Ohio.
Yes, right. And I was in my 20s. And I worked with a local physician, Dr. Robert Brodell. And your listeners will know for sure who he is. He was a dermatologist in Trumbull County. He has since moved to Mississippi to be the head of the dermatology department there for the University of Mississippi. But, he's a longtime dermatologist here. His father was a local physician here, and he just had this tireless energy. And for me to be exposed to that so young, it was just amazing. And I worked with him for 11 years.
Wow.
So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, was there a template to follow, or did he just say go?
No, he was actually just a volunteer for the American Cancer Society, but so passionate about it. And I think that's what I was going to say, just being so inspired at a young age. I did this Relay for Life gig for 11 years just because people had become so special to me. I was engrossed in this process with business professionals, so many business professionals that just did all of this because they had a passion for it.
Right.
And just to be a part of that, I think that very early on taught me what it's like to have passion and just to follow it. And I was just so inspired by, like committee members that would just have your back and just go above and beyond to make this community better.
Are those work environments where you find you thrive? So where you find that there are people together that have a shared passion and shared goals and shared commitment? Do you feel like that's a good formula for success?
Right. I think what it did is, like, growing up in that environment for 11 years, I think that I've tried to recreate that in other environments that I've worked in. And I think I've been fairly successful at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you have a, is it intuitive, is it innate, or is there a book that you read?
I know. It's funny because I do feel like, at a young in your career, you do have to have that desire to just want to be better. You can't teach somebody that, and I always did want to do that. And I do tell the young people that I mentor, a lot of young people work for me, and they have through my whole career, is just, surround yourself with people that make you better. And I do that today. But I just, I read all the books when I was younger, and I was inspired by that, the habits of the most successful people, highly successful people. And I can kind of remember just hanging on to some of that and learning from it, being proactive, and creating win-wins, a couple of those. But every job I've ever had, I've been in executive roles since I've been in my mid-30s. And you have to stay laser focused. I mean, it's just, you're there for two reasons. Number one, results. Mm-hmm. Number two, strategy, to provide strategy.
Right.
And if you can just elevate your thought process just to be a little bit ahead of the game, thinking next step for everybody, that's how you lead.
I see results and strategy, right?
Yeah.
Because without results, you won't keep your job.
Right.
But then strategy, everyone's so tied up in day-to-day execution oftentimes,
Right.
Someone has to step back and say, where are we going?
Yes.
Now, you mentioned this, your inspiration, and it caught on post-college, or you found yourself in this situation. Mm-hmm. In today's world, with the way we feel like the kids are getting, young kids are maturing much faster, given their access to social media and devices, you feel like that, say, middle school or high school kids could possibly find their passion earlier? Do you think that's possible, find a career pathway earlier? I
really do, because just in my role now, I'll have people of high school age reach out to me for advice and, to career path. And I really do think people are developing much earlier. And, just my exposure to my own children. My husband and I have raised 5 children.
5?
Yes, between our 2 families. And, we're proud to say we have 5 college graduates, and just going through this whole career pathing with them, I look at them and I think, wow, you were so much more advanced than I was.
Right. Isn't it true?
It's so true.
Right. Do you find, and I'm sure they all have very different personalities.
Absolutely.
So how do you get the best out of each one of them individually? I'm sure they're all motivated a little bit different.
Right, they are. It's, we have very strong work ethics. We go home, we're working, we're still thinking, we're bouncing ideas off of each other. That excites us. And I think them living with us, constantly going back and forth and seeing that and bouncing ideas off of each other, they just have really strong work ethics too. So good. I think just living with us, living our lives has been a good example for them.
Right. Leading by example, and the passion, the energy it flows through.
Right.
And you find that in the professional environment as well, say here at Farmers?
I do. Yeah.
Everyone's on the same page, there's a shared momentum?
Right. But, it just doesn't happen. It's strategic. And, our CEO, Kevin Helmick, it was very important to him that we have a strong culture. And you can't just say we have a good culture. You have to have a strategy behind it. And we have spent several years as a senior team talking about it, developing a mantra by listening to people. And once you do things like that, you have a mantra to live by. It really does help inspire people to live under the same philosophy that you're trying to promote.
And it's a published mantra, like literally.
Absolutely.
Would you mind sharing it?
No, I wouldn't. And I mean, it sounds so simple now, but if you would know the 18-month process we went through to get there, we have a creed about it and everything, but at the end of the day, it's we're in it to win it. And the philosophy is when you create that win for one of our stakeholders, for your colleague if you're a back office, for your customer if you're in production, for your community, if you just focus on that win every day, your personal win and the bank win will follow.
2 wins. We're in it to win it.
Yeah.
I like that.
In it to win it.
Very simple, but very powerful.
It's so powerful. And after, it was funny because we had our first ever large corporate meeting, over 500 people together in one room at the Stark County, or the Stark Kent campus community room. And it was to roll out this mantra. And we did it really the day before COVID hit. So this area, like the beginning of March, and like a week later it was on shutdown. So we just the right time, we brought everyone together and we all shared in this celebration because everyone worked on it and gave input company-wide. And then we went away and we challenged ourselves to submit 500 win-win stories by July 4th. And so everybody was thinking back to their career here at Farmers and, you know, how they've made an impact, because really that's how you get job satisfaction, you know, and I want people to be happy in the job. Kevin wants this to be the best place people have ever worked, and that's, you have to reflect back on what you've done for others.
So is that a test or a filter that people use? If it sounds like it's top of mind, like if you take a team member, tap them at 3 a.m, what's our mantra?
Yeah.
And they probably could say it, right?
Definitely this one, because we live by it. We have a Wednesday call, you know, a sales call. And the first week we talk about commitments, and the second week we share win-win stories, like what's happened. So it's really embedded in a very short period of time and in an important time, you know, right before the shutdown started, and we could have been maybe a little bit disjointed. It's really held us together. We were submitting stories where Kevin is interviewing these high performers that are talking about these stories, and we're presenting them on our intranet, you know, the win-win of the week. So,
Yeah, and so it sounds like there's a process and a rhythm and a report out, and in a time when we literally had to, you know, disperse, that maintain continuity.
right.
That's
we really
fantastic.
felt it just really kept us united.
And the trick, not only is it a great mantra, right, and it speaks volumes,
Yes.
but then the consistent reinforcement probably really makes a difference.
Right. This isn't going to be a project of the week, in it to win-win it, and then it's going away and we're moving on to the next project. This is important. This is our culture.
Right.
This is how we're going to live.
Right.
So that's
Now-
what I'm saying in my career, being a part of all of this stuff, you know, that we talk about, that's just, I mean, that is inspirational.
It is.
And to be a part of that, I mean, it's just been such a great opportunity for me. Yeah.
Have you observed a situation where, say, perhaps there was a story being shared and someone paused and said, "Wait a minute, I'm not," and they tested what they were thinking against the mantra,
Yeah.
and they changed their thinking? Or have you seen it really shape, pause or shape, or is it just simply so embedded?
Yeah, I think it just took everybody out of their silos, you know. It just made people realize if you're in the back office, you're still affecting every single one of our stakeholders, you know.
Right.
And yeah, I just think it's gone company-wide. And
So you've worked probably at, this is quite a large organization, right? How many people at this organization?
around 500.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then other career experiences probably have been smaller environments, correct?
No, not so much. I mean, after I did the Relay for Life for 11 years, then I moved on to Forum Health, and I worked over at Trumbull Memorial Hospital. And I was a part of that executive team. You know, I went in first to oversee their foundation there, staying in that development lane. And then I ended up in marketing and working with physician relations and doing a little bit of everything, wearing a lot of hats.
Right. So at large organizations, consistent communication really matters to keep everyone on the same page. But perhaps a lot of our audience, they're small businesses. It's probably, would you recommend it's just as important for a small business where the owner could literally touch everybody, like literally?
Oh, absolutely.
But
Yes,
it's important still for people to have a guiding principle.
It is, and it just positions you for growth. Because, you know, that's so important to us as we grow organically or we grow through acquisition and merger. You know, when you have something tangible like this to say, this is how we operate, you know, and that's how you can continue that culture.
Great screening
growth.
criteria.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Even probably used on customers. You know, but customers can expect, hey, we're in it to win it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, eventually I guess now we are talking about it externally, but yeah.
Okay, so this is an internal, well, it's probably informally stated in conversations, but it's really, now that I think about it, it's not a branding campaign.
No.
It's not a part of your, it's powerful enough to be a brand campaign.
I know, we
part of
talk
an
about
external.
that, right? We're like, and it may, but we just don't want to rush the process,
Right.
Right now we have posters all internally. If you walk around some of these back offices, you would see it because we turn those 500 stories into, whoever submitted it. We have a picture of them and a quick hitter of what the story is and what's the win-win.
Wow.
How did you win, or how did the bank win? How did your stakeholder win, and then how did the bank win? Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's so cool.
So do you have, from the different situations you've had over your career,
Yes.
could you frame your leadership style or philosophy in a key set of words at all?
Yeah, I could. And, I tell a lot of the young people this too, as they're trying to elevate into leadership roles. And I really do think I did this early on. It's just really branding yourself, coming up with those few adjectives that you would want to be used to describe yourself,
Right.
and what's important to you and what are you going to live by. And for me, which has guided me throughout the years, is I really do want to lift people up. And we talk about, I was so fortunate for 11 years to be around energized people as I was starting my career. So I really work hard to recreate that. I want to feel energy. I want to feel a sense of urgency. And people want to be around that.
Right.
People want to be around, and you want it to be fast-paced. I want it to be urgent, fast-paced, and high-performing.
Right. Bias for action.
Yeah, I just love that.
Do you find, so I live by the bias for action.
Okay.
Sometimes to a fault, right?
I know, yeah.
So we're high energy people, and so do you find that, we're actually going to talk about leadership mistakes here in a second.
Okay.
But before we do, we want to thank our great sponsors of the Brain Gain, of which
Yes.
we're at the right place to do that.
Right.
The Brain Gain is a collaborative effort, and we'd like to thank the headlining members of the coalition, including Sweeney Chevrolet Buick GMC, the Moransky Companies, and the Mahoning Valley Manufacturers Coalition. Also included are Farmers Bank Group, Youngstown State University, Eastern Gateway Community College, the DeBartolo Corporation, Cortland Bank, MS Consultants, and 898 Marketing.
So we're back, and I want to revisit this notion of...
Adjust your posture before you come back.
Sorry. Okay, and we're back. Is this good, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, just sit normally.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to keep this because we love a lot of breaking the fourth
Bloopers, your
wall.
little-
right.
yeah.
Right. We're keeping this so keep this, Steve. Right?
And
You
while
good?
she's talking, try not to flail your right arm too much.
Okay, well, in my pounding...
Sit on that arm. I do
remember-
too. I'm like this all the time.
Well,
Oh!
you're pounding, I'm pounding,
I
but
know.
that's
We're
okay.
like all fired
It's
up.
the audio experience.
I know.
Right. And speaking of that, I think there's a lot of passion in the room, right?
Yes,
Just
there is.
passionate about
I know.
leadership. So your leadership style and philosophy, you said your advice to, say, younger professionals looking to grow in their
Yeah.
career, identify their key strengths.
Yeah.
Do you
Or
have
what
a way?
maybe they don't have them yet, but identify
Yeah,
what you
how
want to
do
be.
you-
How would
right.
you brand yourself? Is it integrity? I always tell them, just try to be consistent. That's how you build a career. Consistent. I hope when people think of me, they will think she was consistent. She was a high performer. She got things done. And if you just live by that,
Right.
do what you say you're going to do. It
Right.
sounds so simple for me to say that, but people have a hard time living by that.
Right.
Do what you say you were going to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Just be consistent. And it's not even about reliability as much. Being
Yeah.
consistent means performing and executing
Yes.
to the best of your abilities.
Yep, absolutely.
To your highest potential.
Right.
And even brand consistency is important, right? Because
Sure is.
I mean, if
Yes.
it's so fun. There's so many bright, shiny objects out there to chase, especially these
Right.
days, right? For
Yes.
young people that are looking to get into their careers. I don't know. There's so many ways to express yourself. How do you?
a good
What
point.
would you recommend someone? How do they get on that path to consistency, while still keeping an open mind? Because
Right.
maybe
Right. Well, no matter, what area you work in, just try to excel and try to be consistent about it. And, in consistent activities, don't get discouraged. Keep doing activities that will lead to a success. That's another way to be consistent, is sometimes people are like, oh, it's just not turning out the way I wanted to, but you have to stay with it every day, be consistent. We do that in sales. The consistent activity will lead to a positive
Right.
result.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you found, you're the highest ranking banking professional in this broad, really in a broad region. So have you found gender to be an issue? Because, financial services, banking,
Right, traditionally,
the perception, very
yes.
traditional, very
Yes.
male-oriented.
Right,
So
it is, yes.
what have you what have you brought, how have you kind of broken through? I hate to say those words.
I know
Is
what
it
you
the
mean,
right thing
though.
to say?
Yeah, no, it's okay.
I mean, have
Yeah.
you struggled? Have there been challenges, or is it your authentic self has just, immediately been accepted?
Yeah, for the most part, I've been so fortunate because I've spent approximately 10 years in 3 organizations that have valued diversity and have valued women. And I'm excited to see, like, as I mentioned, I've been in business for 3 decades now, but I like what I'm seeing with women, professional women, and young mothers. I just feel like there's a little more opportunity for them than maybe when I was young. That was a real barrier for me to get over because everything was black and white. And as we move, be to work from 9 to or 7:30 to 6, really, when I was trying to really break into some type of successful executive role.
Right.
But I do feel like now that, we just, as families, us leaders, even the men, we just value that these women have families. We have to be flexible. Men have families. And we really value the whole family relationship. And we want work-life balance. And I think, my whole executive team talks about that. That's important for us. We want that for our people because we want this to be the best place you've ever worked. And that's part of it.
Right.
Just we promote it. We remind people to have balance, because we are surrounded with a bunch of high performers throughout the company.
Absolutely.
But we want them to have a good home life too.
Do you feel like the quarantine process and people literally getting used to being interrupted on Zoom calls, these days it's common that you hear a
little
dog
head,
or
a little head pop in.
there's a kitty
Hi,
walking through or something like
Yes,
that. But
right.
do you feel that perhaps this really makes a leadership team more inclusive because it's almost a more integrated experience?
It really
with
is,
family
right.
and work?
And it's just, you're right, just how easily that is accepted now. We are on Zoom calls and we'll see somebody's young child peek in, hi, or I have 2 golden retrievers and the next thing you know, one's up looking at my team, and it's just accepted and it kind of lightens the mood. And, we can still be professional, we can still get our job done, but it's nice, we can still see what our home life's like too, and they're all meshing more than ever. When I was young in my career, it did not,
Right. You had
Yes.
a work you and a home you, correct?
Correct, and you were encouraged to keep that separate, and yeah. So back in the early 90s when I was entering into my career, just very different now, and I'm so happy. I'm just so happy for young families.
Right. Well, there's a silver lining, and we've gone through a really traumatic experience, and with the pandemic, with the shutdown, and with quarantine, and we're not out of the woods yet.
Yeah.
Here we are the week of the election. We're not going to talk about politics.
Good. Right.
Well, and it's funny.
But a lot of anxiety, right.
Well, and the business people I speak to, you know what? Let's come together as Americans. Let's just, whatever the rules of the game are, business people, entrepreneurs, perform. Right?
Right.
This is America, and we have checks and balances for a reason, and we, come to consensus for reasons, and entrepreneurs will make it happen. Right? This is an entrepreneurial environment, right? Farmers is very entrepreneurial.
Right.
Is that
That's
fair
a good
to
way
say?
to, yes, it is. It's fair to look at that. We celebrate the entrepreneurial spirit. Our niche is, our top priority is taking care of small business, and everything else will follow. By doing that, we're employing your neighbor, your friends, your children, like we hope through, brain gain.
Right.
We want our kids to stay here. So if we take care of these small businesses and get this capital out to them, we know we're taking care of our whole community. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, and I teed up this notion of mistakes, and I feel bad bringing up mistakes, but I don't know, mistakes are really instructive. I mean, we've all learned by mistakes.
Right,
So
they are.
were there leadership mistakes you've made along the way, or things you wish you could revisit, perhaps? Something you'd want to share?
I've gotten better at this in my career, but I really believe in hiring the right people. You can see, like, I have very high expectations. I'm a high performer and I want to lift you up and I want to celebrate with you, but I also want you to, being highly engaged. So I just think, any mistake I've made, it's probably around hiring. I mean, you have to hire the best and the right people. And there's been different points in my career where when I look back, I wish I wouldn't have allowed so much like micromanaging maybe, or, situations like that, because I do want to really empower people to do their jobs and do them at the pace they want to go.
Give them a great environment and get out of the way.
Yes, yes.
And
so maybe doing that sooner, when I was young, I didn't really see that clear picture, younger in my career, but still responsible for others and for hiring. But overall, I mean, I've hired some great people, and like right now, the people that work for me, I'm just so inspired by them. And we're very collaborative. That's another thing. I do lead with high collaboration. And I learned so much from these people that work for me. I should be thanking them at the end of the day. Coming with these great ideas and new ideas and strategies. It's just so inspiring.
So you probably you set expectations. You have the win-win scenario that's pretty clear. And it creates this filter, this magnet, almost this attraction model where the right people this appeals to the right type of people. And so then that's how you bring them into the environment.
I think so, right.
Is it a screening criteria? Do you find in your interviewing or conversational process that probably a well-skilled, well-qualified person, but probably just not good for the environment? And it's not a value judgment, it's just, it is what it is. Right?
Yeah, we've had conversations like that before. Right away we celebrate people that are a great fit for our culture. We want to keep them if they are, So it's an interesting dynamic how important that is. And you really do have to get through to that when you're investing in somebody that's going to come manage a division for you. It has to be the right person in that great cultural fit.
Investing, that's a key word.
Yeah.
Because it is an investment on both sides, right? The individual is investing in their career and the organization is investing in the individual.
Yes.
And we all want the positive outcomes.
Right, we sure do. Yeah.
Right. Do you see from speaking not of people but of our region, say broadly this marketplace and Western PA through Eastern Ohio, Farmers has branches. The coverage area is a broad swath of Northern Ohio, correct?
Northeast Ohio, yep.
So do you see anything from a leadership standpoint that this region needs to embrace to be more successful or to keep on the transformative path?
Well, I just think over these past couple years, through programs that you're doing to highlight what people are doing, I think we need to know that because there's so much inspiration in this valley and so many great leaders that are doing great things. So I just think we need to support each other and, ride on the coattails of people that are doing great things. I mean, do I think we have enough great leaders here? Yes, I do. And I just want us to, be supportive. I like when we have programs like this that brings to light the initiatives that we can support. And I think we're in good shape.
Yeah, the economic development outlook is strong.
It is.
So just today, GM LG Chem, they're hiring 1,000 people. Like we published that this morning. Lordstown Motors has a giant list. They're hiring marketing people. So just well, that's where I'm looking around thinking like, well, I have young people that I really enjoy working with. I hope they don't.
Right. I know. I was just thinking that. None of my marketing people can go. Yeah.
Well, so that's interesting, though. As a leader, there are more options. So it used to be around here that people were lucky to have a job.
Yes. I grew up in that era, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
The good problem we're going to have is we have to work harder at keeping the right people.
Right. And that's why it is so important. And, I'm so lucky to be part of a strong team, this leadership team at Farmers, that's thinking of that day and thinking of, quantifying programs like our rally cry and building on that. And, people are attracted to that. We know people want to work for a workplace that has purpose. I mean, part of what our fabric is volunteerism. And it's so important to our employees. When we ask them what they like best about Farmers, that's always way up there about the opportunity they have to give back of time, talent, all of those things. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're not afraid of all these new job opportunities out there because there's such a strong culture and such a great team and there's such great alignment that obviously
Right.
things happen. And
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But
I do have a bad day. Here and there, I do have a bad day. Yeah.
Right. But I think that's great advice for our audience. Is really we definitely, this region has to shift gears and, working in other markets, working in larger markets.
Right.
It's a war for talent, and that war for talent is being waged here now because, fortunately, I'm knocking on wood, all the potential and all the new economic development projects we have going on. So it's a win-win.
It is.
And as they say, the rising tide lifts all boats.
Right.
But it sounds like you're already set up
We're preparing for that, right?
Okay.
And I think we're ready.
From a management team standpoint, are there books you read or articles you pass around, or is this really about the storytelling, the consistent
No, there are.
storytelling?
We read a lot as a management team, and we share a lot. We review books together. Last year we did the 5 dysfunctions of a team, and we spent several days off-site talking about those dysfunctions and how we could be a better, stronger team, and about holding one another accountable, because you get so comfortable with one another that, and you think so highly of someone, you don't want to hurt their feelings, when really we can be the best version of ourselves if we're pushed by our team members, if we're held accountable.
Right.
And so we just agreed that that's how we're going to function going forward.
It's being constructive around the problem, not the person, per
It is.
se, right? So everyone has their best intent,
Right.
but perhaps an action they took or a behavior isn't their best.
That's exactly what it is, right?
Okay.
If there's a behavior that we kind of see that's not going to be beneficial to our growth strategies, then we'll call it out and put it on the table. And that's hard work to get there. We're getting there. Because we are nice people. We want to be nice to people.
Right.
So yeah.
Has there been an awkward conversation, or how are those conversations?
Yeah, they are very awkward, and I think the best teams have those. So you just got to live in the moment, accept that level of discomfort, which isn't always fun.
Right.
But it is growth.
Right.
It is growth. So we do it.
Well, that's important. And if you're too comfortable, you're not growing.
Right.
Because you're not really pushing and trying to achieve your potential.
And that feeling for me, that's the feeling I don't like. That comfort.
Static.
None of us want it at our senior level want to be in that position. So this
lather, rinse, repeat.
Right. So this agreement we have to, push one another, push the envelope, hold each other accountable. It's been good for us.
Right. Well, the coaching, Steve directs me all the time. He said, "No, Jeff, you really should say this or that." But I'm thrilled to have the feedback.
Oh, so am I.
The feedback loop is important.
Right.
Because you don't want to. If there's something that can be corrected or action can be taken, you appreciate the feedback, and it's not about being defensive, it's about being accepting.
Yes.
And, the self-evaluation, well, perhaps there could be a different approach.
Yes.
So, any favorite quotes you have? Some people do the poster on the wall thing.
Yeah, the successories. What was that in the 90s? I used to have all of those. You know?
Right.
Yeah, I used to love those. I guess I really don't have one. Some of the ones that, maybe some people would think are a little cheesy and stuff, but I've always admired, and you're going to kind of laugh, but just in my career, I always tried to find other women leaders, but you remember, I was coming out of college in the early 90s, and there just weren't a lot from the 80s for me to reflect on. But I've read a lot about Mary Kay, and she was so ahead of her time.
Right.
And there's so many things I love about it. And I love that, she didn't believe in fairness, but she believed in recognizing high performance, hence the pink Cadillacs and the trips and all of that. So I just love, reading about her, and some of her quotes I've used over the years, but I remember she always said something I don't have it exact, but she always said sandwich criticism between layers of, I don't know, compliments or something like that.
Right. Yeah, the compliment sandwich. I've heard of that
compliment
same thing.
Sandwich, right. And so that kind of stuff has always resonated with how I am a leader, how I lead, because I want to create an environment where I lift people up. So when I do have to say, hey, could we do a little bit more of this or some less of this, that it's not, shutting somebody down. And that's what I hate to see. I don't want anybody to feel shut down. Like you said, I want the feedback. I want to create an environment where people want the feedback.
Right.
And she did a lot of that. So maybe, that would be something I've reflected on from time to time.
And the methodology is consistent. Now, will we see pink Cadillacs in the parking lot? No.
Right.
That's very consistent with her brand. But
Yes.
once again, the brand, it's interesting, even though, banking can be a very conservative business, and
Yes.
there are compliance issues you have to follow and SEC regulations you have to follow. So obviously, it could be very easy to be too safe, right? So
Right.
how do you balance branding and energy and passion in an environment of high regulations and compliance? I've just always wondered that.
Right. That is a part of the package, and it's, of course, so important to us that we receive high ratings in compliance and in our exams. But, as far as we still take an opportunity to recognize and promote high performance, because we actually do have a program called the President's Club, where every year those people are recognized for their performance, and guess what? We go on a trip.
Nice.
So, the first year those people enjoyed a trip to Turks and Caicos.
Wow.
And then this past year we've had to take a year off, right? But it's not it's just everybody strives to be in that club. So, it's a small token of our, a small part of our budget to promote this type of reward, yeah.
What percent of people, how many people can be in the club?
We probably have we have 11 categories. 11 categories.
Oh, okay.
And they win every quarter, and then there's an overall winner.
I see.
So, yeah.
Okay.
A lot of opportunity.
And is the criteria, how much is objective versus subjective?
We only have a couple. Everything else is just sales performance, like 9 of them are just straight performance, you know.
Very
and we want to
quantitative.
do that,
Right.
I mean, when you're putting those numbers up, when you have the best numbers and they're impressive, you need to be on that board and be recognized.
Right.
But we also do one, we have the back office is so important to us, and we've talked about the culture and, and helping us at the end goal, taking the best care of our customer, our businesses, our communities. We have what support department helped the most, in your world, and so they are voted by their peers.
Oh, wow.
And we do that, the best individual and the best department. So 2 of them are that way. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So do you have any advice? Do you want to issue a challenge for anyone in our audience? And we've covered a lot of bases here.
We have, right?
From leadership style and methodology to personal branding, being consistent. I love that advice.
Yes.
What challenge would you give, say, if someone had to, a way in which your focus is on elevating everyone's success and performance?
It is.
So,
but I guess it would be like, just know what is expected of you. Walk away today and, no matter what level you're at, I report to the president and the CEO of the company, and what does he expect of me? And I think, I really don't think everybody can easily answer that question. And I told you early on in our conversation, for me, he expects results and he expects me to be strategic. So I think if everybody knows that, and you're in alignment with the vision of the company, the vision of your supervisor, your boss, your CEO, it just gives you such job satisfaction to know that you're playing a role in that. So think about that. What is expected of you? Do you know it? Can you state it? And if not, figure it out, and it'll just make life a little easier and happier.
It's so important, and encourage everyone to have that. Sometimes people are afraid of setting expectations, but you have to set expectations because how do you know you're successful unless you set a goal? Right. If there's no goal set or no set of expectations, how can you tell if you exceed or not?
Yes.
So that's probably advice for young professionals out there.
It really is, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anything else we've missed? Because I feel like I've learned a lot today. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
No, I really appreciate the opportunity, to tell my story and about leadership and about women in leadership. That's really important to me. So, no, I thank you for this.
No, thank
talk.
You. Really enjoyed it today.
I did
Amber.
too.
Okay.
Okay. Talk soon.
Okay.
Before we go, I'd like to thank members of the Brain Gain Coalition, especially our great sponsors. Without them, none of this would be possible. So a big thank you goes to Sweeney Chevrolet Buick GMC, the Moransky Companies, and the Mahoning Valley Manufacturers Coalition. Thanks so much for their support. And also, please follow, like, and subscribe to this series on your favorite podcast player. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and connect with me on LinkedIn, one of my favorite places. You can find me over there at Jeff Leo Herman, and send me a message. I will see you next time.
I'm growing up in this life, and to the human that I need to be, I know that I am not alone.